Last winter, our united parish of St. Catherine Lucy and St. Giles decided to use one of our unoccupied rectories for a temporary homeless shelter. And so we partnered with Housing Forward, which is an organization that serves this underserved population. We united with them and worked together to repurpose, if you will, some of our empty space in the building, a space that could offer safety, warmth, a place to sleep, a warm meal on a cold winter night. It was the right thing to do, and it was very successful in helping those in need because of a community that gathered together for this purpose and for the generosity of many volunteers. And so an empty space in a rectory was given a new purpose, a new life, offering again a safe place and food for those who were hungry and needed a place to find warmth and rest. I couldn't help but to think about this as I read what St. Paul had to say in our second reading. Remember, he said, just as Christ was raised from the dead by the glory of the Father, we too might live a newness of life. A newness of life. And a newness of life is what has been promised to us. That's what we know has been won for us in Jesus. But the newness does not just come down from above and sit there in isolation. It doesn't exist by itself in isolation. This newness, Paul reminds us, must be shared. It must be poured out into the world, bringing that same life to every situation that looks lifeless and hopeless, bringing grace to every person in need of the waters of God's goodness and grace. And so I share with you the repurposing of that empty rectory space, because it brought life back to that barren space, but most importantly to barren hearts and souls that needed to be reminded of God's goodness and grace poured out through the kindness of others. And that's what I think Jesus means to lose our lives for Jesus' sake. That's what we heard in Matthew's gospel. And so we're reminded in these readings that at the heart of today's message is the reminder that we not only receive God's grace, but we must also live as agents of God's grace. As we go throughout the day, the week ahead, let's remember to look for those opportunities where we become the agents of God's grace.